Hi guys. Okay, so for your homework tonight, we've been doing our decimals. So we did this in class, dividing a decimal by a decimal, and then all of the breakdown, right, is summarized for you here. So your homework tonight is doing these four problems. Okay, again, you cannot divide a decimal into a decimal. You need to make the decimal a whole number. Okay, so what we're talking about is this is 300ths. Okay, in order to make that a whole number 3, we need to move this decimal point over 1, 2 times. Okay, so now it becomes whole number 3. Because we move the decimal over 2 times to the right here, in essence, we're multiplying by 100. Okay, because every time we increase the value, we're moving the place value by multiply by 10, multiply by 10. Okay, so this becomes a 3. Now, if we multiply the dividend by 100, we also need to multiply the divisor by 100. We also need to multiply the dividend by 100. So if we move this decimal place over 2 times, we're also moving this one over 2 times. So your new problem becomes, right, 10,725, and then you solve it as normal. Okay, so again, for those of us who sort of get confused with our long division, I suggest you take a Post-it note or a scratch piece of paper and cover up all but your first number. And then ask yourself, does 3 go into 1? No, it does not. So I'm going to put a little X there so I don't write a number there by accident. Right, now I move over my Post-it note. Does 3 go into 10? Yes, it does. It goes in 3 times without going over. Right? So 3 times 3 is 9. And then I subtract. 10 minus 9 is 1. I'm going to do a check. 1 is less than 3. And then I'm going to bring down my 7. Right? And then I divide again. 3 goes into 17 and then continue on. Okay? Now, the reasoning behind moving our decimals is if we look at a problem, an equation like this, I know it's not a division problem, but if we have 4 equals 4, that's a true statement. Okay? You always want to think about balancing things. If I were to multiply 4 by 10, that is going to give me a new answer of 40. Okay? Now, if I look on this side of the equation, does 40 equal 4? No, it does not anymore. It does not equal 4. Why? I multiplied this side by 10. It's no longer a true statement. So in order to keep my equation balanced, whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other to keep it equal. Okay, so if I multiply this number by 10, I'd have to multiply this side by 10. Okay, and then 4 times 10 is 40, and now that becomes a true statement. Okay, all right. Problem number 3. I'm going to go through a few of these because they look different. So again, I have a decimal here. I cannot divide a decimal into my whole number. I need to get rid of my decimal. So I'm going to move over my decimal how many times? 1, 2 times. Okay, so now my divisor becomes a 4. Now, I don't have a decimal point here. This is a whole number, 456. Where would a decimal point go in this instance? If I have a whole number, all whole numbers are to the left side of a decimal point. So if I put a decimal point here, I'm not changing the value. This is still whole number 456, and I could add a 0 here, right? It's still whole number 456 and 0 tenths. Okay, so if I moved over my decimal 2 times, I'm going to do the same thing here. Here's my decimal point. I need to move it over 2 times. 1. I need another 0 there because I need to move it over twice. 2. Okay, so my new problem looks like that. Okay, and again, start the division process. Cover up all your numbers except for the first one, and then do your division. Does 4 go into 4? Yes, it does. It goes in 1 time, right? And then continue on with your process. Right? 4 minus 4 is 0. 0 is less than 4. I bring down my 5 and then divide 4 into 5 and continue the problem. Okay? All right, number 2. Oops, I kind of skipped there, didn't I? Number 2. 8 and 5 tenths. I need to move this decimal point over 1 time to make it 85, which in essence means 8 and 5 tenths divided or times 10, right, equals 85. So I'm multiplying this by 10. I need to multiply this by 10. Okay, so if I move this decimal point over 1 time as my shortcut, I'm going to move this decimal point over 1 time. Okay, I no longer need to put a 0 here because it's a whole number. It doesn't add anything. So I'm going to go ahead and write 3.4. Now, again, it's okay to have a decimal here. We can divide a whole number into a decimal. Okay, if you remember from the beginning of our topic, all you're doing is moving your decimal point up on top of your roof, on top of your house, so to speak, right? Okay, so 85 is a big number. 85 does not go into 3. 85 does not go into 34. That's a smaller number. So what do? I have to add a 0. It's not adding the value. I'm adding 0 hundredths, right? Now, does 85 go into 340? It does. How many times? Do your compatible numbers or rounding and multiply 85 by a number to get at 340 or a number that is just below 340. Okay? All right. And then number 4. I have a decimal and I have a decimal. I move this over to the right 1 time in order to make whole number 7. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. If I move this over 1 time, I'm moving this over 1 time. So this becomes 231. Okay, and again, starting my division, 7 does not divide into 2. And cover my next number. 7 does divide into 23. Okay, all right, so there are your 4 problems. Please make sure when you're done finding the quotient for each of these 4 problems, go back and check your work. Multiply your quotient by multiply your quotient, whatever this ends up being, multiply it by your dividend, and you should get, I keep getting my terms incorrect. Multiply your quotient by your divisor and see if it equals your dividend. Okay? All right, guys. Work diligently, check your work, and I will see you tomorrow.